everybody, today I'm going to kind of answer an age-old question that I think we all have with makeup, and that's, do you really need it? So I know a very, very common thing that people say on YouTube, I totally include myself in it, is like when they're reviewing something, they're like, oh my gosh, you need this. And so I'm going to try to answer today, do you really need it? And I'm going to do that with the Urban Decay Electric Palette. I just recently got this, and I actually did a review on this yesterday, so I'll go ahead and link that below in case you want to see it. And I really don't remember, but I think I might have even said, you need this in that review, because I really love it. I mean, you know, you can go check out the review, forget swatches and everything, but I think this is an amazing palette. I love colorful makeup. Obviously, this is definitely more geared towards the colorful side, and I just think this is amazing. However, if you look at that contour, hey girl. If you follow my channel, then you probably know I have a lot of colorful makeup. So I've been told so many times that I needed this palette. I feel like on every single person's makeup collection video, palette collection video, or anything like that, when they pull this out, they're like, if you like colorful makeup, you need this, you need this, you need this. So it went on sale, and I ended up buying it, and I'm really happy I have it, and I think it's an amazing quality. I didn't mention this yesterday, but I do want to mention, these do not stain my eyelids. They will stain my hand, but they do not stain my eyelids if I use a base. I'm using a cream shadow from Neutrogena. I'm trying to use that up in my 17 and 17. So that's one thing I do want to make sure is very clear. But all in all, I just think this is a really nice palette. But do you need it? So in this series, I'm going to kind of compare it to some other colorful palettes that I have, and say, do you need it? So the first one, some of these are going to be limited edition. All of these that I'm comparing it to are limited edition. The first one, the one that, I don't know, when I think colorful palettes, this is what I think of. It's my Kat Von D Vida Loca. I feel like I talk about this palette all the time here on my channel, and for good reason. I absolutely love it. I think it's amazing. Oh my goodness. Where are y'all going? Come on back now. Why did it do that? I think it's amazing quality. I think that it's a gorgeous, colorful shadow, colorful palette. You're going to get a ton of use out of it if you like color. Are there side-by-side dupes for everything? No. There are definitely some shadows in here. I mean, there's a lot more selection here. Again, this neutral inner rim is just amazing. It just, I mean, it adds so much to the palette, I think. And this palette does have that silver in Revolt right here, which, again, as I mentioned yesterday in my video, it's not the best. And this Thrash shade, is that, yeah, Thrash is amazing, and there's nothing like that in the Kat Von D palette. But I think I probably don't have to have both of these, honestly. I think the Kat Von D palette is probably good for your colorful fix. Like, obviously, if you missed out on this palette or any of the others and you're looking for a colorful fix, you know, I mean, the electric palette's on sale right now. It's kind of begging you to get it. Another palette. My Smashbox Art Love Color Palette. This is full of color. Chock full. And it's very nicely organized. It is kind of bulky packaging. So if I have this, do I really need both? I'm going to go ahead and say yes, because the quality of this is so much better. Well, not necessarily the quality. These are really nice shadows. I've done a full review of this palette. I'll go ahead and link it below, as well as the Kat Von D Vida Loca palette. These are great shadows. They're super creamy. They're very soft. With a couple of exceptions, there are some duds. These are great, but they're not near as pigmented. The Urban Decay Electric palette is actually pressed pigments. Now, the Kat Von D palette is not marketed as a pressed pigment palette, but her pigmentation is out of this world. I think they're very comparable. For this palette, you're not going to get the same kind of color payoff and pigmentation as you would in this palette, as you would in the electric palette. So much so that actually my lip color today, if you like that, that is this shade Jilted. That is technically not safe for eyes. I have Urban and my Crease in Jilted. I know that the lighting's kind of off. It's a little late, but I went to this palette up. So kind of similarly to that is the Maybelline The Brights palette. I've done a full review of this again. This is a drugstore super colorful eyeshadow palette. The quality of this is not amazing. It's decent. I actually think Chaos and this blue shade are very similar. But if you just want to play with color and you really don't think you're going to use it, this might be a good option for you. However, you're going to have to build it up. You're going to have to work with these shades a lot more. This, it's a one swipe and done. So this might be more appealing to you, or the Smashbox, something that you're going to have to work with a lot more. This is not, the Urban Decay Electric palette is not very forgiving. It's like, it's there. Deal with it. So if you want something that's a little softer, maybe the Maybelline The Brights. It's also a drugstore palette. I think it's like $10. So if you want something that you don't really have to spend a bunch of money on, this might be a good option. Next is another drugstore palette, and it's the Take Me to Brazil. Well, if I could hold it the right way palette. I actually haven't done a full review of this. I probably should. It's a great palette. It's full of color. As you can see, kind of similarly with the Urban Decay and with the Vida Loca palette, the BH Cosmetics palette has a lot more options. You can definitely get more of a fuller look. I do think there's a lot of redundancy in here that might not be totally necessary. Do you need 4 yellows in one palette? Probably not. But it does have that. It also has this black and white, which are very nice. Again, to just kind of round out a complete look. The Urban Decay Electric palette doesn't have anything besides these colors. So and the BH Cosmetics palette is very nicely pigmented. There are definitely some hits and misses, but just to show you, like, that's the hot pink in the BH Cosmetics. This is Savage. So Urban Decay, BH Cosmetics. There's a huge difference there. I mean, I don't think quality-wise they're comparable at all, honestly. But color range, I think that you have it in the BH Cosmetics. Again, this one's a lot more forgiving. They don't blend as well as the Urban Decay Electric palette. They are cheaper shadows, but you can get this whole palette for probably like $15. But this is $24. So really, I would probably still recommend the Urban Decay Electric palette over this. But if you just want some more forgiving shadows, you don't want that one swipe and done, then maybe you should go for the BH Cosmetics palette. It's a great palette. It's not as great. It's definitely a drugstore palette. It's not as high quality, as you can see, but similar shades. Next, we'll go to my only Vice palette. So the other three I'm going to compare are Urban Decay palettes. First is the Vice 4 palette. I don't think these are very comparable at all. I don't really know why I pulled this out. Probably just because it's a Vice palette. I feel like when people think of Vice palettes, they think of color. But if you have the Vice 4, they're not comparable. You still need the electric. Well, again, need is obviously a relative term. I realize it's makeup. You don't necessarily need makeup. Like, get off your high horse and just go buy some makeup. Like, let's just say that first and foremost. Next, I'm going to compare, this is the Urban Decay Spectrum palette. This is their 15-year anniversary palette. Here it is. It's very jewel-toned. So, I think that these could be comparable depending on what you want. They have some similar shades. All of the jewel tones, the purples, the blues, even that pink, they're not the same, but they're mirrored in this palette. Very similar quality, very highly pigmented. However, these bright shades, that Thrash that I love, and the red Slow Burn, you're not going to find that in the Spectrum palette. So I think it's kind of what you're looking for. If those two shades just don't really scream to you, if you think that's a little much, and the jewel tones are definitely a lot more wearable, then maybe the Spectrum palette is more for you. The Spectrum palette was limited. I'm just holding it upside down, y'all. Was limited edition, so you might. I don't know if you'll be able to find it. I'm just bringing out what I have. in my collection to kind of show y'all. I think the purples are pretty similar. The pink is decently similar. The blues, you can get a similar look. The silver you can, but the silver is not great. So depending on what you want, this could be passable. This could be sufficient for you. And last but not least, I'm going to pull out my Urban Decay Full Spectrum palette. I have done a Do You Need It on this palette as well. You'll see a lot of similar comparisons, so I don't know, maybe that video is slightly redundant, but I'll go ahead and link it down below. This palette I look at and it just makes me happy. It's a rainbow. Whoa. It is, I mean, it is a full spectrum. The name is perfect. Do you need both? The only shade that I think that is not shown in the full spectrum palette is the Slow Burn. You do have this nice shade C's, but that's a lot more orange, I think, than Slow Burn. Well, I say that. You know, really not. Slow Burn is more pigmented. The full spectrum palette is amazing. I absolutely love it. It's on sale right now. I'm going to do a video about comparing these two specifically in more depth tomorrow. But I think that you could really just buy one of these. I don't think you need both. I don't think there are any shades that are super unique to one and not the other. So that's kind of my overall thoughts. The electric palette is great. I think it's beautiful. I think it is fabulous, and I'm very glad I have it. But with some of these other shades I have, and you might have other palettes that I don't have, obviously. I don't have a totally complete collection of every single eyeshadow palette ever. Wish I did, but I don't. But with some things that you have, you might even find more similar palettes. Let us know down below. But all in all, I think it's an amazing palette, but you don't necessarily need it if you have some of these others. That's pretty much it. Let me know if there's anything else you want to see on this channel. I love making videos that y'all want to see. If you have any questions about the palette or anything I mentioned, go ahead and leave it below. I will list a lot of these reviews because I've reviewed most of the palettes mentioned here. I'll list those below as well as this whole Do You Need It playlist. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if there's anything you think I need to buy. I love getting product recommendations from y'all and video suggestions. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you can see more. I have said many times, but it's kind of Urban Decay Electric Palette Week here on my channel. I just got it, so I want to kind of fully review it and tell you everything I can while it's still for sale, because it's going to go. And then what are you going to do? So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all soon. Bye.